What is up, guys? It's Neve and welcome to the first episode of a brand new series here on the channel. I've gone through every single Sims world that I owned and bulldozed every single lot. It is empty. My hope is to go gradually through and rebuild every single one up whilst being mindful of all of the different areas within those Sims worlds. The first one we are going to be starting with is Willow Creek, which is split into 5 areas. Sage Estates, Pendula View, Crawdad Quarter, Courtyard Lane, and the one we're starting with today, Foundry Cove. So if I read the description with you guys, it says, located in southern Willow Creek, Foundry Cove has a lot of character, and its share of characters. Residents enjoy modest homes with a canal nearby for fishing and a charming active railroad. As this was the first house I was doing in Willow Creek, I hadn't yet come to a decision of what kind of aesthetic my version of Willow Creek was going to have. So I did what every intelligent person does, and I had a look on Pinterest. And I fell in love with these coastal houses with their bright coloured exterior walls. So I went on and made a quick sketch of exactly what my house was going to look like. This photo was what I was working off for the entire of building this exterior. I remember speaking to my friend about it afterwards and saying how I went through this whole thing. I made a mood board and I went and sketched it all out, and she made fun of me so badly for it because she's an absolutely incredible builder and just will open up The Sims and build something amazing. And then there's me who just has to actually have like a whole thought out process before going into it. And as someone who was originally going to be going to school for architecture, like that was my original game plan for my life. The Sims made me realize that was not something that was achievable. But in terms of the actual build, we are starting with the Daisy Hovel lot. And when I was making my sketch, I did still really want it to feel like a Willow Creek build. It's got that rectangular one-story vibe that the rest of the homes there had. I ended up creating a colour palette for myself, which was this grey blue, dark blues kind of aesthetic. I think for the future of the Willow Creek lots, I think I'm probably going to lean into a colour, try and make it very bright and colourful, because I don't think many other worlds are going to have much colour. I fear to say that a lot of them seem very bleak neutrals and greys, so I was like, let's take out all the colour where I can get it now. Having my friend be a good builder, I have learnt some tips and tricks here and there, and the one thing I constantly get told whenever I'm starting a new build is that I always have to have a porch. Whether or not this is an actual good tip, or if this is just my friend trying to annoy me, there's a porch, so I hope you are happy. I've done what you've asked. But in terms of my own little indulgences, I had to add in at the front of the house an area where a window seat could be put in. I absolutely adore them. My dream home will have one. I will knock down a wall and build one myself. Like, I will do this. This is what I want in my life. So that obviously had to be incorporated. There was no questions asked there. For everything else, windows are something I struggle on so badly. I play a lot of different video games. Minecraft in particular is probably the one I play the most. And it is always just big boxes. I don't understand how windows are incorporated, because like I walk through my own home and I'm like, there is no windows in here, but like there looks like a heap when I'm looking into it. I really just don't understand how these things work. Like I need people to tell me, like, how do you decide where windows are going? Is there like an actual logistical thing here? And I as you can see up there, I had to go type something in on the screen. I was recording off my iPad through the Xbox Remote Play, and I came to the realization through filming this that if you're putting in cheats, or if you're trying to type or do anything that you'd normally do on the Xbox like that, it will go through the Remote Play, and oh my god, that was frustrating. Like, it's hard to see now because I'm on like 10 times speed, which, oh my god, this is so long. There's so much stuff here. Like I'm over here editing right now, and oh my god, I don't know what I'm taking out, what I'm keeping in, because oh my god, there's far too much of it. But I would just be going around doing what I was doing, and then I'd be trying to type it away, and it would just be popping up on the iPad, and I was like, oh my god, it was frustrating. if I did not make that clear. Because like I was starting to get into the flow. The building juices were starting to get into my head. Not that it's maybe showing in the actual build, but I was so proud of what my end outcome was, because this is just not something I do very often. But this was just there blocking the creative juices every now and again, and it was frustrating. But as you can see with the chimney, the orange chimney did not stay from the original drawing. I really wanted to work with those color contrasts, and that may be something I try play around with in a later build, but it just really didn't work here. So here I am going and adding in flower pots, and I think I must have changed the color of these like 8 different times throughout the entire process, because I had an initial idea and I was trying to working there, but you get to a point where that one front view of your sketch is no longer what the entire thing looks like, and especially because it was a sketch, it wasn't me working off tiles, and a lot of that was really confusing, and I'm in need of tips. Like, if you guys can actually tell me things to work on when I'm building, like, they are very much so wanted. And we are finally here working on the interior, trying to figure out how the hell you're meant to get into every single room, because there's a tiny corridor and everything's on one floor, and I had to get in the wardrobe because I feel like I never actually use that wardrobe, so I'm trying to actually use some of the stuff in The Sims. I'm in need of tips, guys. I'm not a seasoned veteran here. I don't know what I'm doing. So here you can see this fish light, which I absolutely fell in love with, and in about 2 seconds it's going to completely disappear, and at this point I have no idea what's going on anymore. I am putting this together from clips I filmed over a week-long period, and each one is about hours long, and things are going one place and then they're in the other place, and I'm like, this is 2 different days of filming, so like, why is it here, there, and it's not there? And I swear I saved every single day, like I didn't just delete everything, but alas, nothing is going on. And here we are back outside making another porch, because the one thing I have from my builder expert that I can share to all of you guys, the one tip I can give on is to always add a porch. So we're adding a second one, and oh my god, I didn't make the interior for a second porch, and I struggled to figure out where I was going to put the door out, but I ended up just going with the kitchen, as that's where my back door is. So we are bright and colorful again in the interior. I went for these yellow walls which slightly match the tiles, and I think there's been something really enjoyable about doing this whole building thing, is because I think I've made progress. Like, I'm finding stuff I actually enjoy to use in my builds, which before I've never built. So like, I didn't know things you could find this enjoyable. Guys, this is new to me. And these, I don't even know what these are called. These little things which I've made to make my own arch, because why use things that The Sims gives you? I don't know, is that good or is that bad? I don't even know if this works, guys. I'm building with bb.move objects, and I don't understand if any of this works. This island counter was a nightmare. I can't remember if it kept it or not. Like, I don't know what's going on anymore. The brain just kind of frazzled and died doing this. And that's fine, because it's the first of many others. And I'm sure as time goes on, you're going to go through these series and you're going to see me actually maybe get sane, and my sanity will be there by the end, or we may find out that I'm even more of a broken mess than I am right now, and I didn't know that was possible. So here we are. And oh my god, I hate cabinets so much in The Sims, because nothing matches ever, and I'm just like, what is going on? Is it so hard to ask for cabinets which don't look like moldy? Because I swear half them do. Yous are all joined by Neve one day later after my big crash out yesterday, commenting on the kitchen. Here I am in this video just adding clutter, because clutter is something that I find really therapeutic doing. It's one of the very few things I will actually do in building. I'm this close to buying all of the clutter packs, but I haven't yet succumbed to the urge to buy a kit yet. I tried to, with using the island living counters, having the big open spaces underneath, for me it was like a big excuse to go and just add clutter in. And there are definitely things in this build that I found myself becoming really proud of. Like, I added some fairy lights in these wooden art to create my own little lighting fixture on the wall, and it's those small stuff like that, as someone who doesn't build very often, which to me has been really therapeutic, and it's just been a real show of my own personal growth through this build. One of the things, though, I can say confidently has not been therapeutic has been working with lights and paintings. Whenever I build, I just go for a ceiling light, usually one of the first two, which are like the circular ones, the really small ones, which you don't actually see when you're playing the game. But I've been trying to be a lot more deliberate with what I do and when I do it, with actually having proper chandeliers. And in the kitchen, I used these lights which were on the wall with plants in them, because I really wanted to create a sense of character and have this home feel very lived in. And for me, it's been trying to make a lot of my builds a lot more intentional, a lot more logistical. I went back in later on and added in light switches into every room, the amount compared to how many lights there were in it. It's stuff I'm trying to get better at, because although The Sims is a simulation game which doesn't necessarily follow all of the rules of reality, there's just been something nice about learning and actually trying to make it feel a bit more realistic and lived in. Here we are, though, now moving on to the living room and dining room. I really wanted to try a slightly more modern, open-planned space for the interior, especially considering a lot of the stuff in here isn't very modern. I used a lot of those oranges which were in my original colour palette that I didn't manage to get into the kitchen, and we've got a lot of those colour contrasts between the orange and the blue on the inside. There's lots of pillows, there's wooden crates. I've created these two characters in my head at this point, which have been my fuel for doing all of the decoration. This one girl who's a botanist who really likes plants and flowers and flora, which is a lot of the reason why you've got the planters in the front. You've got plants which just get covered around in different rooms. And then you've got this crafty girl who knits, who sews, who paints, and it's the reason for a lot of like the knitted flowers on the wall. And I really wanted to feel like two people in an ecosystem together, living and reacting off each other. And, you know, you've got those flowers because one of them does like plants and all of that, and this is the other one's attempt to show that care and appreciation. I really wanted it to be a storyline almost, and very feel there. I have used this welcome mat that is at the front door in every single build I've done since this one. We've fallen in love, and I fear we're going to get married soon. That that front mat and me we're soulmates. Art is just, I think I said it before, but paintings are always so hard for me. I find that none of them really fit in the environments I'm trying to make them fit into. One of the packs, which ironically enough I found that I've gotten the most use out of when it comes to art and wall decor, is like Dream Home Kitchen or Dream Home Decorator. Not Dream Home Decorator, I don't own that pack. The kitchen one. The Cool Kitchen. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go fact check this, aren't I? So after a little bit of digging online, I think it's Cool Kitchen that I've used a lot of them. It's the wine glass, it's the picture of the people having breakfast and all of that, which to me has been, I like those wall decor. I really wish there was a lot more big paintings, and I suppose I don't actually know very well what all of the paintings are you can get from the painting skill, but it may be something I have to actually look at, because none of the paintings I particularly like very much. And I try not to use the sizing up and sizing down tools too much in my builds, because sometimes it does break things, like windows. When you size them up, the window frame stays the same, I believe. So I do try not to use them in a lot of things, because I know it does sometimes mess up gameplay. Here we are in the second room. I completely skipped over talking about the first one, which was our little botanist. It was very much so an Art Nouveau vibe I tried to use for it, whilst in the second one I tried to use a lot more modern, and it feels, I don't know if this is necessarily the right word to use, but more childish. I wanted to keep a lot more of that childish wonder, and as I said before, the light switches are coming in now. I'm finally going through, and I think one thing other that I need to clarify about is I don't know how air vents work, because I know I want to try and incorporate that in my next build if I can, but this room here was like the first place I got to add in like a large amount of personality, or at least more intimate personality, with like the pride flag. I really wanted it to feel like this person's room, and just this atmosphere of where they lived, and everything I tried to make as deliberate and intentional as possible. It was messy, it was unorganized, because that just felt like that character to me, that person that I was kind of coming up with, which by the end of the video you'll see me actually go and make the two little Sims who are going to move in here, and we get to see them in a couple seconds in the little home I've made for the two roommates. We are back into the exterior working on the back garden, and in contrast to the messy, unorganized room, which was our last Sim's bedroom, I wanted to have this really neat, thought out flower bed. You've got all of them kind of in color groups with each other. I've tried to add in a mix of different dimensions in terms of height in the plants, with overlapping a lot of them, because it's all fenced off with this really tiny fence, which I think I'm going to be incorporating a heap more flower beds, because it was something so much more enjoyable. Because I think every time I've ever made a flower bed before, I have individually taken those giant rocks and sized them down minusculely, but finding out that you could just do that with a fence, alas, it's wooden and not stone, but it was so much easier, and I don't have the patience. Well, sometimes I do. The problem is sometimes I have far too much patience, and I think that's a process you see throughout the builds. There's some rooms which get a lot more care and attention because I have a lot more of the brain capacity to do it at that time, whilst other times it's literally just stuck it down and leave. And I think that's something that I'm trying to get better at. And it's the reason that a lot of my builds necessarily aren't done so well, is because I try to rush the process, and then a lot of the time it doesn't get the same results. And it's like the same friend I'm going to be quoting a lot because I genuinely love her work and like the stuff she does in The Sims. She takes like a month to build one house, if we're lucky. A lot of the time it's more than a month, it's months on end, but it's so thought through. And admittedly, I'm not going to spend a month on one build. I don't have the patience, I don't have the time for that. This was a week, that was long enough, maybe 2 weeks if we're feeling frisky. But I definitely want it to feel a lot more like intentional, you know? And I definitely think there's now and again I get moments of those where I feel like I can put in a lot more time and effort, and it's like those lights. I genuinely think I may have spent like 20 minutes just trying to put those lights there in those posts, because I wanted them to be in the same place, but they obviously weren't clipping onto anywhere. And we finally meet our two Sims. We have Cadence Madison, who is our lovely botanist. I kept her in a lot more neutral colours, everything like that. I think I must have just got down the For Rent pack at this point, so I think you see a lot of For Rent clothing items in there. She is a freelance botanist, loves the outdoors, an art lover, and a bookworm, and I can't be bothered to read the preferences. And then you've got Mei Wang. She is creative, painter extraordinaire, generous, and I think a bookworm as well. I named her after the character from Murder Most Unladylike, because that was like the first book that got me into my reading obsession, and the sleepwear outfit, nothing beats the sleepwear outfit. That was definitely not the one I pretty much randomized and just left with it. But I used a lot more bright colours for her because it was to create that contrast. And here is the house all finally built. I have used the live camera mode thing for the first time in this video. Trying to navigate with this was an absolute pain. But here you can see the exterior of the house with the knitted mailbox, the rocking chair, the painted bench, and we're in the hallway where you get a lot more of those earthy browny tones with those pops of bright colours and paintings throughout with the orange. The sentence went wrong there, guys. Just roll with me. Here is the living room with the dining room and a lot of knickknacks, and on that table you can see the Willow Creek snow globe. There was thought that went into every room and intention. There's a picnic basket underneath. You've got their mugs clattered up. Still getting those more, it's more warm. You're getting a bit more yellow than orange in the kitchen, and that same color palette is in the outdoors with the flower workshop thing. the bench. My favourite little fish light came back. It made a re-return. Now you're in May's room. I love that wardrobe. I will say it a bajillion times over. I love that wardrobe. I added little tassels to the fairy lights. You've got their joint bathroom. Again, oranges, yellows, bright, especially because the rooms both used a lot of green in them. I was like, this is a contrast. And there's a little octopus on the bed. On the top of the wardrobe in May's room, there was heaps and heaps of knitted characters, and I added one on Cadence's bed to kind of show that gift to one another and that real appreciation for each other. And that brings us to the end of our first home in Foundry Cove. I surprisingly had a lot of fun whilst building this, and I really hope yous enjoyed it just as much to watch. If you did, please have a think about liking and subscribing, because I have a heap of lots where that one came from. A comment with a tip or trick would be much appreciated. In the future, I may separate the create a sim from the build and put it into a 2-part per episode, but for now, that's me over and out. Goodbye!